Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Bittner and Ash Paulson to discuss the 2017 Game Awards, including Zelda winning Game of the Year, the reveal of Bayonetta 1, 2, and yes, even 3 all coming to Nintendo Switch, and our in-depth thoughts on the Champions Ballad DLC. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we normally would post, this discussion a lot earlier normally, but Nintendo decided to blindside us with just by dropping the Champions Ballad immediately right after the Game Awards. So that kind of screwed up all of our usual plans. But I thought it would still be fun to discuss everything so far, especially because you, Derek, you actually finished the Champions Ballad today on an epic stream. Jesus.
Yeah, it's like plans. What plans? All I did was play Zelda.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, I just wanted to get our overall thoughts real quick on the Game Awards in general. Like, what did you think of the presentation and I guess the overall reveals? Maybe nothing too specific, but what did you think of the show in general this year?
They're getting better. They're definitely getting better. They're slowly climbing in quality. You can definitely see it. But where it just absolutely loses me is just the rampant commercials, which I understand. You need commercials to pay for all this stuff, all this crazy lightings, getting all the people in there, invites, I guess sweetening the deal for having people advertise on this award show. But it comes at a cost of the actual awards. There were like 5 awards shoved out during the pre-show, and then there was another 5, and then a little bit that I was able to watch there, where like including Best RPG and Best Family Game that just like, by the way, this one this, but this one this, and moving on.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get it to like make these awards matter more, and maybe it's because they can't get the people who won out there. Understandable, but it still feels like you need to give a little bit more pomp and circumstance. Because let's say you don't know anything about the digital voting or anything like that for the Game Awards, you would go in there. I have no idea what the other RPGs that were nominated for Best RPG are. Mm-hmm. That might tell me other possible games. Like, well, man, I liked Persona 5. It won Game of the Year, but man, there's a whole bunch of other RPGs that sound pretty decent. I would have liked to check those out.
Yeah, I mean, I share that main criticism, but I actually have to say I am feeling much more positive about the show in general. I totally agree with you, Derek. So, certain really important, lots of really important awards got sidelined because of all the commercials and other things they had to get through, and that really sucked. I completely agree. But you know what? Outside of that, I tip my proverbial hat to Jeff Keighley. I thought it was a great show. Like, it was... I don't feel like I can clown on the Game Awards anymore, because Like my wife and I kind of made a night of it. We usually make a night of it and just like, okay, this is going to be fun to make fun of and it's just going to be bad. We ended up really having a good time. You're like, that was easily the best the show's ever been, but like not even just relative to all the other bad years. Like, I thought it was a good show, and I really got to say the tribute to Carol Shaw was phenomenal. I love that they did that, and I thought it was in really good taste. And yeah, I actually thought it wasn't perfect, obviously, but I thought it was a good show this year.
I think I fall between you two, but I'm not quite sure, honestly, because I come from a perspective of complete indifference to award shows in general. With that said, like comparing it to the Oscars, for instance, I think this show is definitely more fun.
Hey, Andre, F the Oscars.
God, that guy.
Yeah, that was a segment, right?
I missed that because I was working on the Bayonetta analysis at that point. So anyway,
I felt so bad for Jeff. Like, and he handled that as professionally as he possibly could have. But I felt so bad for him. You knew he regretted that, having him on.
It was definitely awkward, and I liked it for that. It's like, yes, I want more of those moments. That's perfect. I thought the show was fun. Like, it was overall fun. I don't think it's great. Again, I'm not a huge fan of award shows in general. To your point, Derek, about, giving some awards out during both the pre-show as well as kind of like haphazardly during the show, I kind of see like both sides. On the one hand, I agree, like it's kind of weird that they're kind of like sidelining these awards, some of them, making them seem less important by comparison. On the other hand, do we really want to see even more speeches? Like, I think we already had enough of those, like, rambling speeches that kind of go nowhere and all cover the same territory. So I don't know if there's like some kind of middle ground there. Maybe you can, like, properly award these trophies or awards without having everyone give an epic speech. But that aside, I think overall the show found a pretty good balance of dedicating time to the awards themselves, as well as like the reveals and the announcements, and of course the general like PR segments, like having Reggie up there, for instance. So I think it's a pretty good balance, but again, it's still, at the end of the day, it's an awards show. I don't really care about them in general, but I think for what it is, it's pretty decent.
Well, they also figured out the secret sauce of, wait for it, actually having video game music or video game related music at the Video Game Awards.
And that was awesome.
They finally had an awesome
Yep.
That live performance of Jump Up Superstar and the whole orchestral medley of all the different games that were nominated, like that. I love that they did that.
I agree. You're totally on point there. Music is so important in games, and it's kind of mind-blowing they haven't really had that before in here.
Yeah. Well, because they would have all these unrelated, just random bands or whoever groups come on, and it's like, why are you here? Like, what does this have to do with video games?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah, I wish I could do more stuff along those lines, like find other creative ways to incorporate elements of the games that we're celebrating into the award show themselves. All right, well, that's enough about the Game Awards. I don't really care about them in general, as I talked about. But we do have to discuss the Game of the Year itself, which, of course, as I predicted, and I'm not alone on this, it was Breath of the Wild. What do you guys think about that?
Totally fair choice. Like it makes. I mean, any one of those, honestly, I think fully deserved it. I don't know much about PUBG or however Roger pronounced it.
You're still having trouble with that.
I still do because it's weird. Why is it called Player Unknown's Battlegrounds? Why isn't it just Battlegrounds?
It's an awkward name, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the name. Anyway, like any of one of those deserved it. That one is a little suspect just because it is in early access, but so many people are playing it, so I kind of get the reasoning behind it. But it makes total sense that it was Zelda. Like, Zelda was the thing that people talked about nearly all year. It was the big launch title of the Switch. It was a new direction for Zelda games in general. So, of course, and Zelda just does well in the States, so it makes sense that it would get Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say pretty much what I said on Twitter, which is, I mean, it's very hard to argue against, because all these games deserve it, like you just said, Derek, and Breath of the Wild is groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and it's hard to argue against, even if I don't necessarily personally agree. And I won't say whether I do or not yet, because I haven't said what my Game of the Year is yet, because I honestly don't know, but I'm just saying, I don't necessarily know if I agree, but it is very hard to argue against. But, like you said, Derek, Horizon, in my opinion, also deserves it. You could easily make an argument for Persona 5 or Mario Odyssey, but of course I can't comment on PUBG because I've never played it. So, but yeah, I mean, the competition this year is just insane.
Yeah, it looked really good. There were a lot of good games this year. Even, I haven't finished Horizon Zero Dawn yet. I want to, but from what I played, I can absolutely see why it's in the top 5. Yeah, so I mean, as for Zelda, I mean, I fully expected it. That's not a surprise to me at all. I'm happy, I'm happy for it, and people who thoroughly enjoyed that game as much as they did. It's not my Game of the Year choice, but I greatly respect it. Plus, it depends how you look at it too, because Zelda's probably one of the more ambitious, if not the most ambitious game this year, and it also reinvents an entire series, basically, from the ground up. I do think it's kind of funny, though, if you look at the past Game of the Year winners, we've also had, The Witcher 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition, both of which are, big-scale, fantasy-based games. So it does seem like there may be a slight bias toward those.
I guess there is that Oscar bias, so I guess we have a Game Awards bias.
Well, it's funny you said that, because I actually, I was pretty much thinking Zelda would win, but I wasn't completely sure, and the reason for that, I thought it might go to Horizon only because the Game Awards, as far as I remember, have a pretty, pro-Western Game of the Year winning bias. I feel like they usually give out awards to Western games more than Japanese games. So, well,
Breath of the Wild is as Western as Zelda gets now.
I mean, that's so true, and you're right. I was just, the only reason I was maybe thinking Horizon was only because, they might usher in another Western Game of the Year winner. But, other than that, I was pretty much thinking Zelda was going to win.
Right.
Well, the weird thing for Horizon is it got nominated for a bunch of things, but didn't win a single one, as far as I know.
Which is just criminal. I guess that speaks to the incredible competition this year, but Horizon should have won something. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none.
All right, so let's go start talking about some of the announcements. We're going to focus on the Nintendo ones, of course. And I guess we'll just go in order of the announcements. And first up was we finally found out what the Champions Ballad is, but I don't think that's true. We saw a trailer for it, but I don't think I had any much better idea of what it actually was looking at that trailer until we actually finally got to play it, thankfully just a few hours later. So, putting aside our playtime with it, what did you think of the trailer itself and the whole reveal of it?
I thought it was a really cool surprise, actually. I think just seeing it there and then they're like, oh, and it's out tonight. Like, I think that was a really cool surprise, mainly because they've told us so little about it, and they've really, all we knew about the Champions Ballad until yesterday when they released it was, it's going to come out before the end of the year, guys. Just, trust us. And it did, and it was kind of cool that it happened like that. But the trailer was good, but I don't know if it was necessarily very illustrative of what the Champions Ballad actually is. But I also, like, you just kind of touched on that. Like, it's still kind of, what is it? Derek is the only one of us who knows, I guess, because he's finished it. But I don't feel like it did a very good job defining what it is.
And real quick, we're going to save we are going to discuss this more in depth with Derek's playtime, but we're going to save that toward the end in case we want to avoid any spoilers or whatnot. With that said, though, Derek, without spoiling anything, how representative would you say that trailer is of the Champions Ballad?
It's pretty representative. It sort of gives you the slice of the big highlights from it. The fact that how it starts, the fact that you're going to learn a little bit more about the champions and a little bit about Zelda and whatnot. And then of course your big reward is the I forget the actual name of it, but
the Master Cycle Zero.
Master Cycle Zero. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, that's okay. The Link gets a motorcycle. That's awesome, and that's what everybody was talking about. The fact that two things I saw everybody talking about when that trailer came out. One was Baby Sidon.
Yeah, he is adorable.
Yeah. Oh, he is totally adorable. And then, of course, the motorcycle and just how nuts it is, and how Mario Kart is now canon, especially because his bike is called the Master Cycle in Mario Kart. So this is the early version of that, which is nuts. But yeah, the thing is, it puts a lot more emphasis on the story, and once again, it's sort of like the one trailer that Breath of the Wild put out before it came out, where it seemed like, oh man, this is going to be such a story-heavy thing where there's tons in it, and nope. But
I think this is a case where Nintendo's complete silence worked against it. I guess, but maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I think maybe we should say that for
probably
later impressions.
But I was excited mainly because it was just, okay, I'm down with a weird motorcycle. Why not?
Yeah, no, I'll say, seeing that trailer, I was actually really excited. I'm like, that actually looks pretty cool. And the motorcycle was a complete blindside, so that was a nice surprise. And then the fact that it was coming out just almost literally right after the Game Awards, that is pretty cool. So right after the show, you can go download it, even if that's super late for people in the, Western Hemisphere. Yeah, so that was all pretty cool. And then shortly after that, we got the announcement of Bayonetta 1 and 2 coming to Nintendo Switch. Both as a physical product, in which it includes both for $60, I believe. Or you can download them separately on the eShop or together. Derek, do you remember the prices?
Yeah, so the physical version is $60, and it comes with a download code for the original Bayonetta. But they will both be on the eShop as well. So if you get Bayonetta 2 first, it'll cost you $50, and if you want to get Bayonetta 1 after that, it's another $10. Now, if you get Bayonetta 1 first, you'll spend $30, and let's say you decide you want Bayonetta 2 as well. That's another $30. So there's different pricings depending on what order you buy them in, but if you get both, you're always going to end up with $60 no matter what.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that was cool.
I think it's a good method.
Yeah, it's nice that you had those options, and it's cool that they're coming to Nintendo Switch. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's on there because, again, was it Roger that predicted this? I think so.
Yeah, I think it was Roger, yep.
Yeah, so he predicted that, and as soon as he said it, I was like, it makes complete sense to get Bayonetta 2 onto the Switch, because it just couldn't reach its sales potential on the Wii U. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to get it on there, yeah.
I'm actually surprised you're surprised by that. I figured Bayonetta 1 and 2 on Switch was just a matter of when, not if. I just kind of always figured that was going to happen.
I guess mostly, but I did not expect it by February.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't. Yeah, of course, I didn't expect the announcement there, but I figured. I think I probably just kind of thought in the back of my head, like by the end of next year, Bayonetta 1 and 2 would have found their way to the Switch, just because it just felt like it would happen after the Wii U. Yeah, and because especially Platinum and Nintendo, and really Bayonetta and Nintendo seem to be so friendly right now, especially with Bayonetta 3 being exclusive to the Switch.
Yeah, Bayonetta is kind of like a Nintendo property now.
Yeah.
Oh, it totally
Which is,
seems that way.
It's kind of cool, I guess. As an aside, this makes me feel pretty confident and safe about Bayonetta and Mega Man coming back for Smash, given a lot of the week's announcements.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they don't come back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since Ash touched on it, let's go ahead and get right into it. Bayonetta 3. None of us saw it coming for sure. And I did like Reggie's little tease before it. He's like, "Did you think I came here to really announce this one thing? Here's something else." And yeah, that totally took me by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, oh, I'm totally down because I loved Bayonetta 2 when it came out on the Wii U. I think that was my game of the year that year. I want to say it was.
I think it was.
Yeah, I adored that game, and I've still yet to play the original, so I definitely need to do that. But I'm so ready for a Bayonetta 3, and the teaser trailer is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, it looks like.
Yeah. The more you look at it, the more it's just like, she's getting the crap beat out of her, which is weird because it never happens. I mean, I didn't think about this until like later because again, I was exhausted last night. But usually when she does her multiple bullets at once and getting the all fire at the enemy at the same time, they're coupled in a heart pattern. Not the case here. That's how desperate she is. It just scattershot and it's just not working.
I like how you're still discovering stuff that we could put in the analysis when initially you're like, oh yeah, there's nothing there. We don't need to do analysis.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see. I think I kind of thought there would like hopefully be a Bayonetta 3 if it could get funded basically. And I had a feeling it would, but I absolutely did not expect Bayonetta 3 to be announced last night. Even after 1 and 2 coming to the Switch, like, once Reggie said he had something else, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's Bayonetta related, but nah, probably it'll be something else. And then, of course, it was Bayonetta 3. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool surprise. You guys know I'm not I'm not a hardcore Bayonetta fan myself.
Yeah, I've never played it myself either.
Yeah, I mean, and they're games I absolutely intend to play at some point, especially 2. I hear how amazing it is. But, I'm just not personally a huge Bayonetta fan at present. But I'm super happy for fans. I know this is something that Bayonetta fans have been wanting for quite a while and we're really crossing their fingers for. So, super happy for Bayonetta fans for sure. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny, too, because we're already getting the same complaints that we heard back when Bayonetta 2 was first announced on the Wii U. It's like, why isn't this on PS4 and Xbox One? It's like, well, nobody else saved it. Nintendo did.
Exactly. Deal with it.
Yeah, the game probably wouldn't exist without Nintendo stepping up to publish it. So
yeah, exactly, literally. Yeah.
It's interesting too. Like, I think the venue for the announcement of this was perfect. Like, we were talking in the discussion about, what would they announce? And I think I brought up the fact that I figured they would do something a little bit more mature. Like, it seems like the perfect. That seems like more fitting for the demographic. The Game Awards, as opposed to like showing off a new Kirby or Yoshi trailer or something, which I think Nintendo kind of learned their lesson from
Codename Steam and Tropical Freeze.
Or Codename Steam, yeah, that too. Yeah, Bayonetta just seems like a perfect fit, because especially in this case, with it going super dark on the thematics, apparently.
Yeah, like we came back to her later in the night, and you're like, her legs fell in different directions. What?
Yeah, like,
I gotta go back and watch it again. I've only seen it twice. I'm not like, I need to go see this.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you watch it once, it's like, oh, okay, as I said earlier, like there's not much there, and then you keep rewatching. Yeah. It's like, oh, you can actually pull out a fair amount from this seemingly that might give us some kind of idea of where they're going with that sequel. Mm. So now they also said they merely said it's in development, right? They give us no kind of timetable for when this is coming out. So what are you thinking for a release date for this?
I mean, by saying in development makes me think 2019, but the fact that the first 2 games are coming out so soon,
that's a weird thing, right?
I almost want to say it's going to come out like maybe September, October, kind of like the same time frame that the original Bayonetta 2 came out, on the Wii U. It might seem way too soon. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking like spring 2019 or something like that. I feel like it's pretty far. I don't know. Yeah. I just get the sense they don't even have a logo yet. Like, that's how early in development it is. Like, there's not even an official logo yet. So
yeah,
I don't know. I kind of they didn't have key art to show. They didn't have a logo. I get the sense that it's in very early pre-production.
There was a whole thread actually on Recetera or reset era, however you prefer to say it, about like asking today if in development means 2019, because we've had that now for Bayonetta 3, as well as I think Metroid Prime 4, and Metroid Prime 4 I'm convinced is not a 2018 title.
There's no way.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be shocked if Bayonetta 3 is as well. But hey, if that ends up being a late fall release for 2018, that'd be great. That would be a good filler. Especially, I don't mean
filler.
I don't mean filler. I mean, that would be. I mean, rather, it is targeting a more niche demographic, though, right?
To a degree, yeah. The thing about it, though, is that already we're seeing signs that Nintendo is making sure that their consistent release schedule is not stopping. We have a February game now.
Yeah.
2 games, really.
And we were both Yoshi and Kirby given like early year?
Yeah, so both
I think
Kirby and Yoshi are coming out early in the spring sometime, yeah.
We're still missing like a heavy hitter though I feel like they need to announce something in the first half of the year bigger than what they have, because I don't think neither Kirby or Yoshi are going to be like those heavy hitters, and then Bayonetta is a port. So I'm hoping, so it's not bad so far, but I'm hoping there's more, and hoping the January Direct will address that and fill in a couple of holes there.
It likely will. I mean, I'm still expecting information on Fire Emblem Switch at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling it will too, just because, I mean, if this first year of the Switch has proven anything, it's that Nintendo has figured out their production pipeline issues. Like, we're not in that release cycle anymore where we have, like, one touchstone game and then months of silence and then one more touchstone game. Like, this first year for the Switch has just been games after games. It's just been an embarrassment of riches, really. And I mean, we're not even like it's easy to forget, but like we're not even out of the first year yet. The first year doesn't technically end until March. Yeah. So we're getting Bayonetta 1 and 2 before the Switch's year 1 is up. And I don't know. I feel like if we've seen anything this year, it's that Nintendo really has learned that they got to have a steady stream of quality software.
In a way, it kind of works out that the Wii U was a failure because it allows them to port these games over to a whole new demographic.
Yeah.
And nobody minds.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
exactly.
A couple people mind, Eric, but
yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, I mean, just as far as indies, we're getting the whole Mutant Mudds collection soon. We're getting
we're getting coded for that.
Yeah, I saw we're getting Enter the Gungeon, which I heard is a really great roguelike game. We have, of course, Wolfenstein: The New Order, the new Colossus coming out next year as well. Like the support is definitely there. There is so much to play.
So, so what do you guys think overall of just Nintendo at the Game Awards then? Like, did they deliver? Yeah, like, do you think
they had a great
the past
show?
years?
I think.
Yeah,
I think it's maybe the best they've had. Honestly, the best presence, just the best overall kind of.
Yeah,
all-around presence I think they've ever had at the Game Awards.
I don't know if I go that far. I think I still give the edge to 2014, where they had that epic Zelda Wii U blowout with them actually playing the game, even though you could barely see the game in it.
See, that's the thing, is I felt like it kind of underdelivered because of that. Like, it wasn't even a full screen. You had to watch this tiny-ass screen they were playing on.
Well, this is also the year that they had the epic Mario Maker trailer, too, that showed it was far more than what they had just shown at E3.
Good point.
Oh, right.
I forgot about that. Okay, good point.
So those combined, I think, and also Codename Steam appeared there, although I didn't really care about that.
Yeah.
But
nobody did.
Yeah.
I did, but nobody did.
Yeah, exactly. But I would agree. I think this was a solid year, or this was a very good year for Nintendo The Game Awards. And it even feels weird to be talking about in the context of it being like a direct or something.
I know.
Yeah, but I thought it was good. Like, even though I'm not too invested in Bayonetta itself, like, I think it was cool. Like, it would surprise me. I know that's gonna make a lot of people happy. And again, it's good to see Switch getting more support from Nintendo and Platinum Games especially. And and the Bayonetta is kind of 3 games in one in this case. We got 3 Bayonetta games at once. So
yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll get Soul Calibur 6 as well.
That was the other thing I actually did want to touch on, even though it's not Nintendo. I just personally like Soul Calibur a lot, so I was actually really happy to get that Soul Calibur 6 surprise, and I swear to God, if they don't bring Talon back in this game, I'm going to be so pissed. She wasn't in 5, so bring her back.
I saw somebody mention it's supposed to be, or some article mentioned that it's supposed to be set during the same time frame as the original game.
I know.
Maybe,
it's possible. Yeah, it's weird. I guess it's like a retelling of Soul Calibur 1 with, like, it's supposed to be like the quote-unquote other side of the stage of history where things you never knew happened were actually happening.
Does anybody care about the plot?
No.
That's exactly it. I love how goofy Soul Calibur's story, and that they got that same narrator the tale of souls and swords.
Oh, you have to.
Retold.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's so good.
He's great.
It is great. I think everybody's more concerned, like, all right, who's going to be this crazy guest characters this time around?
Well, it better be Link. That way I have a segue into our next topic here, where we can dive in depth into somewhat in depth. Derek's the only one who's fully played it, and Ash hasn't played it at all. But where we can talk about our impressions of the Champions Ballad, whether we played it or from what we've seen of it. So yeah, Derek, you took you about 8 hours to fully finish that thing, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so, because there's a lot of wandering and messing up. Like, it took me a while to grasp what I was supposed to do in the second half of the DLC.
Right.
But once you got a hang of it and know what they're looking for, it's like, okay, this is a lot better. I think the problem was I started with a section, like I started with the dragon. I'm like, oh, okay, I just got to get the dragon at some point. And then of course I was going all over creation to get a spot, but it's like, no, you want to shoot the dragon in this spot. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, that took me a little bit, but I'd say you could easily, I'd say you could, depending on how good you are, about 7 to 9 hours, which is pretty beefy for DLC.
It actually really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard a lot of like extra DLC campaigns going up and like finishing in like 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean that actually is a little more, I think, content-wise, volume-wise, than I was necessarily expecting, which I think is, I mean, if it's fun, of course I haven't played it yet myself, but if it's fun content, I actually think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's really the question, because I booted it up last night to see if there's any kind of video I should do before I start editing Derek's analysis of Bayonetta 3. And man, it hits you right away with that with that quest where you have to use, what's that new weapon called, Derek?
Oh,
I think it's the one-hit obliterator, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a one-hit obliterator. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to go to 4 different camps, kill all the enemies with a thing, which it can kill enemies with one hit, but you can only do it twice in a row before you have to wait for it to recharge. And the entire time you're vulnerable yourself to being hit by anything and taking you out. And I
died a lot.
And yeah, I did too, until I just gave up. Because I had to move on to other things. But I thought that was such a poor way of starting that DLC. I feel like it's so important. I've talked before how I think it's important, like a game's opening is so important to me. And I think that applies in a way to DLC as well. And this one, especially for a lot of people, like myself even, are coming back to this game after a month of not playing it, and being smacked in the face with this massive challenge wall that honestly just feels cheap to me. Where you just, any kind of hit, like the first area I went to, there's bats flying on me while
oh yeah, the keys cluster. Oh my god, they took forever to take care of.
Yeah.
Now I have heard, I haven't played it of course, but I have been reading about what you're talking about, and I have heard that a lot, and not that this makes the lack of this messaging okay, but I have heard that a lot of players seem to forget that you can still use your bow, and that if you stock up on various arrows beforehand, that makes things a lot easier.
I mean, I had my bow, and trust me, that's necessary, but I still, I was still dying quite a bit.
Yeah.
Although it became a running gag because I cleared out one set once, like I had only one to take care of, I was chasing after him to finally finish him off, and they had a bunch of spikes set up in the grass, and I completely missed it and ran headlong into the spikes and died. It's just one of those things, but that's the thing, like, if you're coming into this after months, like a lot of people are, it's going to be rough on you. It's going to be like, because I'm adjusting to the controls, getting used to everything again. I'm hitting the wrong buttons, and I have this massive challenge ahead of me. But I still kind of like the difficulty. But if you're playing through this normally, let's say you get the DLC right when you get the game as well. As soon as you finish the fourth Divine Beast, it opens up to you. That's how it's unlocked. And like to go from all of those to like, okay, let's get the real challenge going on here. I feel like it's actually a pretty decent progression. It just sucks when you're coming back to the game after a long time.
I don't know if I agree with that, because the game, I mean, Zelda Breath of the Wild actually is weird in its difficulty curve, and that it starts off really hard and then gets easier and easier as you go through the game. So I think hitting that wall at the end, possibly, I guess maybe you're counting DLC Pack 1 as part of that, like difficulty curve, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, it's more like, okay, you got comfortable, you got know everything, let's actually challenge those skills.
It's not even so much like that it's challenging, which it is, but it's like more punishing and cheap to me. Like, I mean, that's kind of like one hit kills in general, I would say. So having this new DLC open with that, was weird. And then beyond that, though, like, it's not just that. The way they integrated at least the start of it, I can really only speak to the start of it, but I just stopped playing, but I did watch your stream for quite a bit, Derek. But the way they incorporated it into the actual game, too, felt so cheap to me. Like, it felt tacked on, rather. Like, it just kind of threw it in there, and maybe that becomes less of a feeling later on, but the way it starts, it just feels like they put no effort in incorporating it into the actual game. It does not feel natural at all. It feels like, oh yeah, I bought the DLC, and here's this trigger now that starts it.
I can kind of see that, but again, once you're into it, like once I started, like I finished up that one hit part, I got through that opening bit, and I got this quest to start searching for everything. At first, I was really upset because I was like, oh my gosh, it's so freaking cryptic trying to figure this out. But once I got back into the swing of things with the game, it's like, okay, I'm recognizing where these locations are, where I need to go. Let's actually take care of it and get through it. And, you know, it was interesting challenges in order to actually access the shrines, and the shrines themselves tended to be really good. There were some really clever ideas on display there, or some interesting challenges. Even with the one-hit KO section, there's like it put an extra bit of pressure on you, and I don't know. I just ended up having a lot of fun, and I like the fact that, like, this is a beefy DLC. They added 16 new shrines. That's a lot. That's a lot of content right there.
I was talking to Ash about this on the podcast a little bit, actually, and like for me, like I didn't finish all the shrines in the game as is, so I don't know if I want to deal with even more shrines. Like I already have shrines left. So I mean, it's weird to me that that's like one of the main extra bits of content here. Basically, here's my problem with the DLC from what I saw. Again, I haven't played it. Maybe my opinion will change if I played it. The way they set it up with I forget the original words they used, but they seem like they marketed it as like a story-based DLC. And almost everything I've seen of it doesn't back that up. The only real story in that are those half-an-hour diaries you're reading, Derek, and then the 2-minute cutscenes you would get as reward for beating
re-challenging the blights. Yeah,
and calling those story is very generous from what I've seen, because all it's doing is providing a few more background details, if that, on stuff that was already established in Breath of the Wild, the main quest. There's really no story there. It's just providing a little bit more context.
It's more character. Like we're actually
characterization.
One of the big complaints was like we didn't really know much about the champions. This kind of solves that, where we get a bit more to their characters.
And I actually like the cutscenes that I saw. I would actually say they're probably better than most of the cutscenes in the actual game itself.
Yeah.
But like my main issue is just the way they've gone about this whole DLC thing, and it's, you know, we talked about this way back when they announced it. Like that was one of my concerns. Like, what if this doesn't live up to, to what they're kind of marketing as? And based on what I've seen, again, I haven't played it. Maybe my opinion would change, but I don't plan to. Based on what I've seen, it doesn't. Like, this is not at all what I expected. Like, it's not anywhere close to what I expected.
What I think we all expected was something closer to the series of quests that led to the Divine Beast in the first place.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that would be closer.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't fully know what I expected, but I expected something a little bit different than what we got. Whereas what we got seems like just kind of more of the same.
I mean, that's a fair way to look at it too. And I mean, of course, I'm also thinking it was a little different than what I thought I was going to get too. You know, in hindsight, maybe or maybe we all should have expected, the Zelda with one of the worst stories in the franchise to date was going to get DLC with, basically a non-existent story as well. So, I mean, that does seem to be the case here. I haven't played it, of course. That does seem to be the case, and that is a shame. However, as someone who did finish all 120 shrines, because I really, really loved the shrines, that was one of my favorite parts of Breath of the Wild, I'm actually really happy to get 16 new ones, and apparently most of them are really fun. So, I also haven't played DLC Pack 1 at all, either. So I'm actually going into this not having played since before DLC Pack 1 came out, so I'm kind of taking it all as a whole. And, despite the fact that I didn't like Breath of the Wild story at all, and the fact it didn't really have much of one, I still spent 140 hours with this game. So obviously I really liked a lot of the gameplay. So in that sense, even if I am let down by the story aspect of Champions Ballad, I may well go into this and play the new content and decide, okay, you know what, $20, I had another 8 hours of fun. even if the story still sucks, I'd be okay with that personally.
But you could spend the $20, Ash, instead on Stardew Valley and get dozens and dozens of hours of much better fun.
Yeah, see, the thing is, and it's my buddy, he's playing it, he has a Switch, he's like, you'd hate this game, and I already know I would. I'm not into sim-type experiences. As much as I recognize the quality of games like that, I would never call, Stardew Valley crappy. It's just not my thing.
I get that. I mean, my point more in that is... for me personally, I'm one, we've talked about this before in various contexts.
Yeah.
But I'm one who values novelty, and I was hoping they would do something, I wasn't expecting a whole new game, but I think there's so much more they could have done here than what they ended up doing to make it stand out from Breath of the Wild itself, or from the core game you've already played through. And so I would rather take that money and invest it in another game, and get something different than what I've already played.
I can kind of see that, but I also appreciate that, okay, we went through the 12 shrines and all that stuff, disregarding all that, 16 shrines, excuse me. Yeah, we did those 16 shrines, great new gameplay, I was pretty satisfied, and then we get a freaking dungeon, not an actual dungeon, but another Divine Beast-like dungeon that was interesting, clever, a little different, and fun to do. And then, amazement of amazement, we actually got another boss. We have a 6th boss in this game. And,
yeah,
and it was pretty fun. I was like, it was pretty wild. Like the setting, it was pretty cool, and it was fun to do. And I gotta say, it's kind of amazing running around Hyrule in this motorcycle.
That does look fun. I'll admit to that. That definitely looks fun.
I do want to point out, one thing, and it's just the way I hear you talking about this, and I totally hear what you're talking about in terms of how they presented it, how they had people pay for it early. I'm not going to argue that. I totally see what you're saying. But I also kind of I'm wondering if we're maybe a little too close to the forest of the trees here. Yes, it's true you could put $20 towards Stardew Valley or a completely different game and get a completely different experience. But, why does anyone buy any DLC for a game unless they want more of that game? I wonder if we're kind of... why would you buy Breath of the Wild DLC at all unless you're going in with the expectation that you're buying it because you want more of Breath of the Wild? You see what I'm saying?
That's a very good point.
Yeah, no one buys Hatsune Miku DLC expecting to get anything other than more Hatsune Miku songs and costumes, and, when I got Mega Man 9 and 10 DLC, I didn't expect a reinvention of Mega Man gameplay. I expected to be able to play as Proto Man and Bass.
Yeah, so that kind of gets back to the lack of specifics. We knew nothing about this, and I still think, even for as vague as they were and non-specific, just using however they use the word story in their announcement of this was, I feel, misplaced now in hindsight, because I don't think there's any greater emphasis on story here, really, than there is in the actual game itself, with maybe the exception of the fact with the DLC itself being much shorter than the main game. You might come across a bit more of it because it's a condensed version of the whole, the experience.
Yeah.
Sure.
And yeah, I can kind of see that, but I do like the cutscenes they did. Like you said, I do feel like they're some of the best in the game itself, because we got some real characterization for some of these. We saw why they're considered champions, because we hadn't really seen that before. Plus, baby Sidon is adorable as all get out, and there is some actually really funny moments in some of these scenes as well. And, as much as you were ragging on the diaries, Andre, I found them relatively interesting, getting a viewpoint of those. And, I do kind of like the fact that, one of the things they're really pushing upon you is just how badass Link is, where he's 4 years old and taking down adults with his sword skills.
That's See, yeah, I will say that one of the few parts of Breath of the Wild story, such as it is, that I liked were those diary entries you found, in Zelda's room in the castle, that gave you so much more of a look into this world and what's going on off screen, that I really kind of wish it would have been told in a more traditional way, via cutscenes. Yeah. But I am glad to hear that more of that is offered in the Champions Ballad.
It's one of the problems of the structure. They wanted post-apocalyptic, and all the story was in the past, but it's hard to get involved in all that. So I kind of get where it's coming from, but it just...
See, you're touching on something right there, Derek. Why wasn't this in the past or something? Why...
Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure where they wanted to tell, but I hear you. I wanted that story.
There is a point where they show you what Castletown looked like before it was destroyed, during the day and all that. I was like, man, I really want to explore that place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping for. We talked about this in our in our predictions piece, like something of that nature. I'm not expecting them to go give us a whole new world, but they could have reused that world and shown it in change some things up, show it to us in a slightly different way, in a way we can play through it. Like, I feel like there's so much missed potential here. Again, based on the whole idea of them calling it a story-based expansion before or whatever. Yeah, like, I mean, for me, like, it seems like more of a gameplay expansion than anything. And as one, like, I like gameplay, obviously. I'm a gameplay first type guy. But lacking stories was a gaping hole in here, in Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I felt like this would have been a good opportunity to kind of, like, maybe fill in some of those gaps. And I don't know. I mean, again, I didn't play it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Derek.
I mean, it has its issues. It has its problems. But I still, like, by the end, I was like, okay. I don't mind that I played that. I got a decent amount of content for my money. I feel like especially between, if you look between DLC Pack 1 and DLC Pack 2, and I haven't even bothered to track down all the costumes and stuff that you can get in the game, so I mean, it's fine. It is good, but I'm not going to say it's amazing and must buy. It's like, if you take a look at it, if it seems like something you'd be into and want to experience, pick it up. Otherwise, you're not missing much.
I mean, what it sounds like is, what you're going to get out of Champions Ballad really has to do with how much you got out of the individual gameplay elements that went into Breath of the Wild. I mean, Derek, you and I sound like you and I really enjoyed the shrines, obviously enough to clear them all. I really love the shrines, so the idea of more shrines to me is a really cool surprise. But to you, Andre, and to a lot of other people, I totally get it, who got kind of bored of the shrines and who didn't complete them. I totally get that the idea of 16 more shrines in Champions Ballad is like, ugh, okay. Nah, I totally think that there's going to be like a bit of a division here between people who just liked the disparate gameplay elements that went into Breath of the Wild and are reproduced here in Champions Ballad, and people who just didn't.
I have a question, Derek. Do you think the DLC lived up to your expectations based on the trailer that you saw? I mean, granted, we didn't have too much time to ruminate about it or anything, but
of this new trailer, I think like I said, I can best describe it as a same sort of trailer that before Zelda did, like where it makes it seem like there's this big series of plot, and I even remember commenting on that. I was like,
yeah,
man, there's not a lot of plot going on right now. Like, it's just get me through all of this, and then got to go through even more stuff. Like, it will take you a while before you finally start seeing some new story stuff, and in that way, of course, it doesn't get represented very well, but otherwise, like, when they showed gameplay, I think it represented it pretty well.
I think for me, like, when I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty much what I expected. This looks really cool. And part of it was because I didn't understand the context for what was going on. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, the coolest moments, once again, are the parts you're not playing in the DLC. And at first I'm like, oh, are you actually playing these guys? Like, are they doing what I thought you would do? Like, where you go back in time or relive these, these champions moments? And no, you don't. That's not it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things they mention is how, like, all these challenges you're going through is something that the original champions did. Have you go back in the past and have, like, accompany them.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Even that was exactly. I mean, I would have been fine with that even. So I thought the trailer was actually really cool. I really liked the trailer, but based on what I saw of your stream and my short gameplay session with it, that does not live up to what my hopes were based on even the trailer. So, granted, and part of what I expected from the trailer was informed by the idea of it being story based. Yeah, which now I wish I hadn't known that at all. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
yeah.
Sweet ass motorcycle.
That is true. I will. I mean, I'll have to play on your file when you come. When I see you next. So I do want to get that a shot, but I don't know if I'll put up with 8 hours to get to it.
No, I mean, I really do want to get that, and I got to say, like, just this discussion has gotten me really excited to go and like try it out for myself and really kind of see where I land on it, because this has been a great discussion, and I feel like there could be another one, an even better one, once more than one of us has played it.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to now that I kind of have a little more context for what to expect and what not to. I mean, I gotta say, the idea of 16 more shrines, especially if a lot of them are well designed, I'm down for that. It's been several months since I've played Breath of the Wild, and I really did like those shrines. But I gotta say, I am really disappointed, like you, Andre, that it was presented as story DLC when it very much seems to be more of Breath of the Wild's very non-existent story. So
right.
I hear you. I totally see where you both are coming from, and I also still want to play it.
It'd be pretty funny if I actually do end up playing it and like loving it. So.
I know, right? Can I just say though, my biggest disappointment about the Game Awards in general before we close?
Yeah,
sure.
Where was Mega Man 12?
Oh my god, Jesus.
Oh, God.
We're done
I mean,
here.
come on.
I mean, really, you went for Mega Man 12, not X9? Really?
Well, why not
I'm a
both?
Mega Man
Where was
fan.
X9 and 12?
You
right?
throw Derek, you throw Ash one bone and you expect an entire graveyard now. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Take your Death Stranding and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whatever the heck that was.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
no,
was
right? We
something
could
else,
talk
wasn't
about
it?
that for a while. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we're about done here. So thanks for watching, guys. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to both of those in the description below. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for lots more on Zelda Breath of the Wild. Well, maybe. We're probably done actually with it now. We'll see. And everything else Nintendo as well. Catch you later. Bye.